It's Mr. B. I got asked here the other day if I did just bees. Well, I don't. I do a little bit of natural organic composting, and I kind of split it between doing composters outside and worm composters on the inside. The person that asked me about this asked me if I could do an instructional on it so they could learn how to do it. I have two worm composters that I started a few years ago, and they're full of worms and soil. And as you can see, this one here, I've been adding a lot of stuff normally from just the kitchen. You can add like your vegetables, your greens, and stuff left over from like your cuttings, onions and stuff. You just don't want to use any citrus type of fruits or anything like oranges and lemons and pineapple and stuff like that, because the worms tend not to like it, and it could be harmful to your worms as well. I find that using like your leftover lettuce, onions, and banana peels, and just those types of things, and eggshells. You can crush up your eggshells and add them to your composters. Actually, that gives a grit to the worms so that they can use the grit to digest their food, because they don't have teeth. They basically have what they call like a chicken does, like a gizzard type of deal, where it collects all the little gravel and stone and stuff, and their food goes into it and it grinds it up so they can digest it. But anyway, is what I'm going to do here. This is the worm tea that I collect off of the worm composters. You can get worm tea, worm castings. Not only that, if you have an overrun of worms, you can use them for fishing. You can use them in your other composters or your other plants outside in your garden, but you do want to keep a large supply of red worms in your composters, because the more better they populate, the quicker they will digest the food up, turn it into castings, and of course you can make worm tea. This is just from this morning. I poured about a half a gallon of water into the top of my composter, and this is the tea that I get from the worm composter, and that's just this morning. It will make more today. Sometimes I'll just leave this bucket up underneath, or coffee coffee can up underneath it, and you can turn it on and just let it drip overnight. Like you see there, it's coming out still from the bottom, and it will do that as long as you have that valve open, and you can collect it that way. This is great for pouring on your house plants, your garden plants. I have peppers in pots, and this is excellent for them. It really gives them a burst of nitrogen and other minerals that the worms, help make in the composters. This is great stuff. You can dilute it down and put it on your plants if they're real sensitive and you don't want to burn them. I have been able to put this on straight, and it has worked great on my plants. My basil outside is going crazy because I poured some of this on it. It is just huge leaves and very flavorful and great stuff. But anyway, all right, is what we're going to do is move a couple of trays off. I like having two, so that gives me a place to put one of the stacks on another one while I do the worm casting harvesting. And so what we're going to do here is, this is the top tray, so I'm going to move it over, and as you can see here, we got a few worms that are working the soil, and this one here is just loaded with worms. Look at that, just all sorts of castings and
and making the worm tea. This here is a avocado skin that they were working on. But as you can see there, look here, I'll put them back over there. They don't like it when you're messing with them when they're trying to eat. Can't blame them. Anyway, we're going to put this one here on top of that. And I'm going to go down another couple here. See what we got. I like to open it up and see what's going on in there. As you can see, it's nice, dark, rich soil. This here has a little bit of eggshell in it. Sometimes when you harvest, you will find some of the extras that you have put in there. And these are doing real well. And then I'm going to check this one here. I'm looking for the one that has the least amount of worms in it, because when I harvest the soil, I don't want a whole lot of worms in the soil that I'm harvesting. And if I find one or two of them, I'll throw them in the other tray. This way, I keep up the population. Now, if you get a few worms in your harvest, it's not going to hurt it, because if you're adding it to your plants in the garden or in pots and stuff, it sometimes good to have a few worms in there to help the soil. Whenever I harvested the last time and I stuck some of the soil into the pots, they were pretty good sized pots for like my hibiscus and basil and oregano and stuff like that. Whenever I lost the plants, they finally overextended their life or had a problem and couldn't survive anymore. They still had worms in the bottom of the soil in the pot. So they do stay in there for a while, unless they find their way out. I'm picking out just a few of the worms and throwing them in the other box. And get to a point where you go down to lower the box from the top, because most of them will go to the top to feed. So there you have a tray that is very few worms, okay? And it might have a couple little baby worms or something like that in there. So, but this one here is a little least amount. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna harvest this one. Now this might take away from my worm tea. You don't want to do it too many times. I mean, you don't really want to go through and just replace all of your soil with new coconut coir. The coconut coir that I use comes in a brick. Sorry, all my supplies over here on the side. They come in a brick like so, and you add water and they expand to what this is in this bucket, which is coconut coir. I kind of do it the night before, so that way the coconut coir can absorb all of the water. I do it with warm water if I can, and let it expand overnight, so that way it all comes undone. You go in there with a little hand shovel and stir it around, and if you find a few dry pieces, just add a little bit more water and it takes care of it. It'll expand even more. 2 bricks gives me just right at about a half a bucket. I have used just a little bit of that to add to the top of a couple of these others, but let me finish harvesting this out. Quick little shoveling. A lot of times you can take all of it out of the tray. If you do one tray at a time, then your worm tea won't start thinning out, because the worm tea is actually coming from this. Oh, look at here. There was an avocado seed in there. How'd that get in there? They won't digest that unless it rots. It basically has to rot all the way. The eggshells that you add to this are also good for your plants whenever you're planting your little seedlings or expanding your plants into bigger pots loaded with nitrogen and minerals and worm castings. And I had somebody ask me one time, what is a worm casting? Well, it's their poop. It's worm poop. It's kind of like calling cow crap manure. But, oh, I dropped a little shovel there. Now, what I can do is just take most of this out, because I'm almost getting a full bucket here. Because what I'll do is sweep that up off the floor that I got out of that fell off onto the floor. It's almost a whole bucket right there. That's I did a couple of trays off of this one the other day, and it gave me well over half of a bucket. So just this one here, because it compresses it, and of course whenever you dig it out, it expands a little bit more. So yeah, there's a couple of little worms. I like keeping the big ones in the big box. Oh, there's a baby one there. Yeah. So they're having babies, which is good. I've never had to buy worms more than once, unless you just let the thing totally go dry or you're not feeding them. Now I'm gonna leave about this much into the bottom of this one. So that way I don't have to overfill my bucket. And there's my bucket there. Okay, so let's switch out these buckets. As you can see, that is dark and rich with the worm castings. If I grab a scoop of this, and look at that, you see how that's more brown, light brown, compared to the dark rich of the soil. So now we're going to put some of the coconut coir back in here. Now you don't want to fill your trays up completely to the top. You want to leave them about halfway if you can. That gives you room to put your kitchen waste in here. And after you give them so much kitchen waste, it expands it, makes it a little bit taller. And after it's a little bit taller, oh, how you like that? I lost my handle. That old shovel says not today. That old shovel, it's been through some times. And after we add roughly about half of that, and you want to spread it out kind of even, because whenever you set your tray on there, your tray might lean one side to the other, so you kind of get the idea of later on, after you've done it a few times, how to make your trays a little bit more straighter whenever they start compressing. because if you don't, the tower will start leaning to one side. And these towers are 5 trays high. Okay, there we go. Now this will compress a lot, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more. And then what I'll do is I'll bring this tray up to the top, so that way whenever I add more of the kitchen waste, vegetables, scraps and stuff, you can do fruit scraps and stuff, but just no citrus. No citrus. Okay. All right, after I have done that, I'm going to take this tray out and set it right here. Okay. And take that bad boy out of there. Add this one back in here. Okay. And this one here, I'm going to set it here for a moment. This is the very top tray again. I'm going to put it over here. Now, the reason why I did that is because I've stuck a lot of scrap inside of that tray in the past week or so. So I'm going to give them time to digest that. And put this one here, right there on top of that one. That's going to make it about the 3rd tray down right here. I'm going to add this one. This is my new top. And I will add new scraps to this. The worms are not in this one at the moment, but they will come up to the top once I get scraps in there. Move this. This I need to let me hold the camera out a little bit, and go get the broom, and I will show this one off over here. This one here had a lot of potato peelings in it. As you can see, I switched it around here the other day, and the worms will be coming to the top of it. I'm going to add more to it. Gotta clean up my mess. This is part of the instructional. You gotta clean your mess up. Because if you get that on the bottom of your shoes, it'll stick to your shoes and be all over the house. There we go. There we go. Kind of set that back over there. Alrighty. Now if you want to go get that dill of lettuce that's on the counter that has expired, and get my wife to go get the lettuce, and I'll show you how I do put it in there. And here's the fun part. You take it, this is some lettuce that started getting a little icky. We keep lettuce in there for like salads and stuff, just be able to put them together. So you start off in about the middle, create like a hill to the side. There you go. You don't have to do this, but it helps. And it helps with controlling the fruit flies and stuff if they start getting bad. They tend to get bad once in a while. Okay, I'll use my hand to get most of this out. Yep, nice and slimy. All right, put the lid on that and set it there. All right, kind of spread that out. That's old lettuce. Okay, and basically you just bury it, just like that. This will be a kind of like keeping it under control for all the little gnats and fruit flies, and they do get in here and cause chaos when you open up the lid. It's like just a cloud of fruit flies if you don't do this. If you do this, they can't get to it, and it's better. And also, if you got something that you put it in there and you start smelling a little bit of rotting vegetation or something like that, you can cover it up. If you put stuff on top, like I did on the other tray that we moved down here, I didn't really have problems. I don't really have problems with it, even though I do have fruit flies from time to time, but they don't really go for this. They're always going for my plants and stuff. So whenever I take my plants outside, I basically get my fruit fly problem under control. And once you do this a few times, now whenever I put something else in here, I'll start scraping this and I'll bring it up to the middle. I kind of like 3 rows here to pour my vegetation in, or you can put it in the corners and or down the middle like I just did. Whichever way, there's not a true way to do it. It's going to make it any better. Just covering it up makes it to where it keeps the fruit flies under control. Now within about a few days or so, those worms will make their way back up here to the top, and they will start eating on that, and then I can start pouring more stuff on here, and before I know it, I got a tray full of worms again. I'll show you here. Look at that. Wow. Whenever you switch your trays around, if one gets full of vegetation, this here's got coffee grounds in it. That's one of the nice things about it. Look at all these worms. They are just working it. I've got pieces of cabbage and onion, and I think there was some celery in here. Really, there's not much of an odor, even though I had it overpacked. I stuck in there a little bit more. Even the coffee filters, they'll eat these things up. Look there, it just starts falling apart. They tend to eat those things, and it doesn't hurt them. But the coffee grounds and vegetation and stuff, you can see they just are going crazy. They love it. And if I go down one more tray, there you go. They've got that tray almost done. It's almost all black. When I dig it up, it's still black down the center. So there you go. It's I'll kind of level it out so my tray will be level. There we go. So whenever your tray gets like this and you're working from the bottom up, whenever you harvest your worm castings, you'll find that it's less worms to have to deal with, because they normally go towards the top. So just you know, an FYI there. I'm gonna put this back and put it back together. These trays I linked on my Facebook, and they run about sometimes they have them on special for like $89. I think they're $109 or something like that right now. They come with 5 trays with the spigot on the bottom, so that you can harvest your worm tea. The trays, you can rotate them. You just got to have some